truthful answers. There'd be no reason to question anything they said. That kind of implicit trust is the kind of trust that Jehovah's Witnesses have in their organization, in their corporation on earth. Just for shorthand, we're going to call this corporation in this video Watchtower. If Watchtower tell their followers to jump, Jehovah's Witnesses say, how high should we be going? And Watchtower are constantly peddling this, the need for obedience, to obey whatever God says, but God talks through Watchtower.
We too have to be well trained and ready to obey. Why? Because the obedience that we develop today will help us to obey life-saving instructions that we will receive from God's organization in the future. We will be protected as long as we are ready to obey.
When that direction comes out to branch committee members or when it comes out to the congregations, if you want Jehovah's blessing on you as an individual or family, certainly as an elder or the congregation, it'd be best to just ask Jehovah to help you understand it, but obey the decision.
Now that's all well and good if you're a Jehovah's Witness. This doesn't come as any surprise. You're used to this, and it's not really even that bad, right? The people running God's organization, the people running Watchtower on earth, they're good people. They've proven themselves to be loyal servants of God. These people, the ones running Watchtower, they have your best interests at heart. But do they? Could the needs of Watchtower actually come above the safety of Jehovah's Witnesses as individuals? I remember posing this question to my parents as I was being raised as a Jehovah's Witness. You know, what if God's organization tells us to do something that's wrong or harmful? And the answer I got, and many Jehovah's Witness youths get, is, well, it doesn't really matter because that never happens. It doesn't happen. These are good people running God's organization. God is ultimately in control. They're never going to ask you to do something that's bad. So we don't have to worry about that scenario. And as a child, that answer tracks. I mean, your parents love you. They want the best for you. The organization in their eyes is good and really serving God. So there's no reason to question it. It's probably the same answer they got when they asked that question as a child. What would be really interesting, though, is if someone had documented evidence of Watchtower putting its members' lives in danger. That would really make you question whether this implicit trust that Jehovah's Witnesses have in this organization is dangerous, foolish, and potentially life-threatening. Okay, so just a quick recap. My name's Ben. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I actually started working in Bethel, which is a part of the Watchtower organization. Started in London, was moved to Germany, the Central European branch. And this is where you get to rub shoulders with the people making decisions. So you're there constantly with the branch committee, with department heads, especially in the COVID times, because these facilities were under lockdown. Every single day you are surrounded by the organization, by God's organization. So yes, while the governing body make decisions that affect Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide, your branch committee in your country make local applications. So sometimes they may not take on a decision of the governing body. Sometimes they might tweak a decision of the governing body. And already, that's kind of strange territory for a Jehovah's Witness, because you don't ever think of committees or humans making decisions. All decisions basically get done either through a letter that's read in a congregation meeting. So someone gets onto the platform and reads a letter that's come through, or you see some kind of decision or announcement on JW Broadcasting, which is their video channel. Either way, when those announcements are given out, you don't hear it came from this individual or this committee. They just read the announcement. Sometimes they may say, with love from the governing body or with love from the branch committee. In fact, I would bet good money that your average Jehovah's Witness who comes to your door probably can't name a single branch committee in their country. And they definitely can't name two. They might be able to name the governing body, but the branch committee, the people who make the decisions for their country, they have no idea who these people are. I mean, I only know the names of people because I was working with them, because I was in those facilities. So responsibility for decisions doesn't really exist in Watchtower. You never really connect a decision being made to a specific person or group. It's just the organization. So the idea that sometimes there are discrepancies or sometimes differences made, different decisions for different countries and things, that starts to confuse a normal JW brain because it's one united organization. That's what they're always telling you.
Millions believing exactly the same based on the word about Christ. Some may say unity of belief, you're brainwashed. Well, we do agree that our thinking has been washed clean, and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity.
Think about how unique our unity is. We are also united internationally. Out in the world, look around. People are divided. Nations attack each other. And within nations, political parties fight one another. When we stand together and unitedly follow direction from Jehovah's organization, good things happen. Stand together as one united people.
There are literally hundreds of branch committees around the world making decisions that affect millions of Jehovah's Witnesses. This kind of hidden layer of responsibility exists. I say hidden because there are so many different committees, so many different departments inside Bethel, inside Watchtower, that it all gets bundled up under the term theocracy or theocratic. So we need to obey Watchtower, we need to obey the decisions of God's organization, we need to obey theocratic decisions. All of these terms are hiding who, what committee, what department made the decision. It doesn't matter, it comes from God's organization.
Jehovah blesses obedience. This is a theocracy ruled by God, not a collection of man-made decisions. This is governed from heaven.
If you're not a Jehovah's Witness, or if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, this is a really scary point. That's why I've spent some time going over it, because remember, if Watchtower say, jump, everyone I used to know will say how high if they haven't jumped already. It is a instant reaction you have to any decision they make. But there's no accountability. You don't know who or what is making those decisions. They just come through and you do them.
I don't know who you are or where you came from, but from now on, you do as I tell you, okay?
On the 22nd of June 2020, the world was still in peak COVID times. There were no vaccines. The news was basically 24/7 on this pandemic. We still didn't know how dangerous the virus was, even how it was really spreading. People were rightfully scared. I was worried, even in lockdown in Bethel, about what this meant, how dangerous this virus could potentially be. It was a scary time. Yet, on this day, on the 22nd of June 2020, something I think really interesting happened. See, Jehovah's Witnesses had discontinued their door-to-door ministry work because of the pandemic, and that was the right thing to do. But that decision, made by the governing body, it left wiggle room for branch committees for your local application. How do I know that? Well, the Central European branch, so Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, these countries, in these countries, on the 22nd of June, a letter was sent out, a very interesting letter. This letter, sent by the branch committee, gave the following direction.
June 22, 2020. To all congregations in the branch territory, re-ministry during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dear brothers, The past 3 months of the COVID-19 pandemic have changed the ministry tremendously for all of us. The house-to-house ministry will not yet be carried out until further information is received. However, you will certainly be pleased to know that in accordance with the instructions of the governing body, it is now again possible in our branch to do return visits, home Bible studies and cart witnessing out in our local territories. If you have any questions about the practical implementation of some features of the ministry, please contact your elders who will be happy to provide you with suggestions. You dear brothers and sisters, let us not give up in doing what is fine, for in due time we will reap if we do not tire out. Your zeal to continuously make known Jehovah's name in our branch territory moves us a lot. Please accept our warm love and may Jehovah continue to bless your efforts. Your brothers, Jehovah Witnesses Branch Office, Central Europe.
Yes, in the height of the pandemic, the branch committee had decided that with no medical background, with no scientific qualifications, that it was not only wise but beneficial for Jehovah's Witnesses to go out into the towns, to bring trolleys and to hand over literature to the public. Now, my immediate reaction to that inside Bethel lockdown was, this is nuts. We have no idea what's going on, but we're going to go out into towns, speak face to face with people, and hand over literature. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. Let's imagine someone gives over a book, the person who receives the book, maybe they're really interested in Jehovah's Witnesses, but they get sick. How can we prove that it wasn't our book that made them sick? That's a PR disaster waiting to happen. It's just so dumb. And bear in mind that the branch committee, these Bethelites, they were in lockdown. So that means that when this letter was read to hundreds of congregations for hundreds of thousands of people in Central Europe to go out and risk their lives for the preaching work, when this decision was made, the people making the decision, the ones with no medical background, with no qualifications, they were safely in a Bethel lockdown. They weren't going to follow this direction. So in other words, it was one decision for your average Jehovah's Witness in Central Europe and quite another for the committee that made the decision who were safe in lockdown. But remember, Jehovah's Witnesses are trained from birth not to question decisions from God's organization, but to do them. So on this day, thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses began public ministry in Central Europe in the height of a global pandemic. The Jehovah's Witnesses who went out and did this, thinking they were just following God's wishes, they were risking not only their lives, but the lives of the public, despite all of the guidance from the governments, from the authorities, just to follow direction. When we really boil this point down, when we really get to it, it shows that Jehovah's Witnesses would rather kill someone or be responsible for someone's death than question decisions Watchtower make. This is an interesting case, though, because it highlights the disunity inside the organisation. Why can I say that? Well, I don't think for 1 second that the governing body, the top dogs in Watchtower, actually authorised this. Why can I be so sure that World Headquarters, that the governing body, would never have sanctioned this decision? Well, on the 10th of July, just 18 days after the initial announcement was read, the following direction was read out in a new letter.
July 10, 2020. To all congregations in the branch territory, update on instructions for the ministry during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dear brothers, surely we all appreciate the heartfelt interest that the faithful and discreet slave takes in the health of the publishers, as expressed in the video 2020 Governing Body Update number 4, which was fittingly shown in this week's Life and Ministry meeting. We have now received updated instructions from the governing body, which is why we ask you to stop cart witnessing until further notice, both at congregation level and in connection with the special metropolitan public witnessing. We understand that this information may be somewhat disappointing for some, as this avenue of service was only recently made possible again. However, the governing body's attention is focused on the well-being of all publishers. Therefore, we keep in mind that our dear brothers who are taking the lead made this decision out of love for the entire association of brothers. We are fully convinced that all of you continue to do your utmost to praise Jehovah's name and to implement these suggestions gladly. By showing our trust in Jehovah and his organization, we present something very valuable to Jehovah, something that he will bless. With strong faith that Jehovah, as the great teacher, continues to guide us through this critical time at the end, we send you our warm greetings. Your brothers, Jehovah's Witnesses Branch Office, Central Europe.
To summarise what happened, the governing body stopped all preaching work because there was a global pandemic. They sent out direction to the local branches. One branch committee decided, actually without any medical information, that this doesn't really apply to trolley work, to giving out hand-to-hand literature, to speaking to people in the streets and towns. So they sent other Jehovah's Witnesses to go and do it. Then someone at World Headquarters was informed that this was happening, had a shred of a brain and thought, this is a bad decision. And then World Headquarters wrote to the branch committee in the Central Europe branch to basically make them change that decision. And that's not speculation. They say as much in the letter. They say, we have now received updated instructions from the governing body. That sentence isn't filler. They are telling you, we wanted to do this really, but we've been stopped from doing it. Now, I am going to point out, because I pride myself on not misleading people, that the letter does include a section to say that people at risk should not be out preaching in the cities during this time. If the unqualified bricklayers and window cleaners in your area deemed you were not medically at risk, you too would have to follow this direction or face severe peer pressure. The reason for the flip-flop was interesting in this letter, did you see? Is that the governing body's attention is focused on the well-being of all publishers. So in other words, the danger was never to the public, to the worldly people. We weren't thinking of them, the people who might get sick, who might get infected from the ones going out preaching. No. We're making this decision because we love you, the Jehovah's Witnesses. We want to protect you. We were always thinking of your individual health. We're there to care for you. Trust our decisions. So let's jump on their bandwagon for a second, shall we? Let's ignore whoever made the decision. Let's just say it's God's organization. Let's say it's Watchtower. Watchtower told me, God's organization, God basically told me to stop doing the dangerous thing that he commanded me to do after 18 days. He told me to go and do something, then realized it was dangerous, changed his mind, now I've got to stop doing it. That makes even less sense. And the cheek here is that they know that some people are really going to question this and think, what the heck, this is a complete 180. So they include something to crush any kind of doubt or any kind of complaining. In the letter they say, by showing our trust in Jehovah and his organization, we present something very valuable to Jehovah, something that he will bless. In other words, if you question any of this, you are questioning God. Do you want to question God? Do you know better than the God who created all things?
When the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, we all received direction. Did you disagree? Or did you have a different idea? If so, did you follow the direction anyway and give it your support?
And what's really crazy to me, because I lived through this whole thing, is you would expect Jehovah's Witnesses to just wake up or to realize they're in a cult and I've just got to follow whatever you say. That's crazy. But actually what happened was the opposite. It was mad. This decision came out and everyone was so happy. Jehovah has allowed us to go in ministry again. We can preach. Yay! Then this decision was made and people were saying, this is a classic Jehovah's Witness thing. They were saying, well, we needed to go and preach for that time. For those 18 days, someone or a group of people needed to be reached without question. So that's why we got sent out. It was all part of the plan. It served a purpose. What? That's nonsense. If the letter came one day earlier, it would have started one day earlier. If the letter came, it was complete nonsense. Jehovah's Witnesses in Central Europe literally witnessed a complete human mistake, a dumb decision, and somehow it was covered over to make it seem like it was beneficial, like no one was put at risk, and that ultimately is what God wanted. To be clear, I'm not saying that the branch committee in Central Europe actively were trying to kill Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not. But the point is that it shows the implicit trust that Jehovah's Witnesses need to have in the organisation. That implicit trust is dangerous. Maybe a final thought here. Let's think for a second. I'm going to try and think, what would a Jehovah's Witness, an active Jehovah's Witness who believes in everything the Watchtower tell them, what would they say to all of this, to this example? I mean, I've given you proof that the letters exist and that this really happened. You just have to ask anyone in those countries. But what would they say? They would probably say to this video, well, humans are imperfect. God's organization, Watchtower, is imperfect. It does make mistakes. It's the most perfect, imperfect organization on earth. The brothers never intentionally meant to harm anyone. They never intentionally mislead or do things wrong. And to those people, to the people thinking like that, I just want to pose some questions, okay? If Watchtower, if God's organization can evidently make decisions that put Jehovah's Witnesses in harm's way with no medical background, with no qualifications, why must you always implicitly trust and obey everything they say? What would have happened to your spiritual status or to your reputation in the congregation if you decided that this direction came and actually for my family the risk is too great, I don't want to follow that direction? How would you have been viewed after making that decision for your family? If the decisions are made from God, or if the decisions are made with the best of intentions always, why do they not come attached to names? Why is there no accountability for decisions? What would happen if a bad egg, someone else, not any of the branch committee right now, but what happens if someone who intentionally wants to harm you, who wants to kill you, wants to kill Jehovah's Witnesses, what happens if they rose up and became part of a department head, part of the branch committee, part of the governing body? What happens? How would you be able to tell the difference between decisions made by that imaginary person, by that imaginary bad committee, and the committee that you're currently having implicit trust in? What would be the difference? How would you be able to know if you're never able to question anything? Are you putting your life and your family's life in danger by never questioning and never being able or encouraged to question any decision you receive from the organization, from Watchtower? Now that's a bit doom and gloomy, okay? And I like, if I can, to think forward and think about a fresh start, think about me for my own benefit. How can I learn from the examples and things I saw while I was a Jehovah's Witness? If you're PMO or you've recently left Jehovah's Witnesses or another cult, remember that we've broken those ties, but implicit trust in any organization, in any group, in any government really, in any news source, and dare I say any YouTuber or Twitter personality, it's never a good thing. You should always be able to question what you're watching, question the legitimacy, question people, especially if we're going to put them on a pedestal. We should be able to trust what they're saying. We should be able to make our own decisions in life. Learn from others, but make a decision for yourself. Remember, the key isn't to look back and laugh at how indoctrinated we are, or laugh at Jehovah's Witnesses, how dumb they are, and how they're so thick and they can't wake up. The point is, we're out, and we want to learn from this. We don't want to make the same mistake again. So these kind of examples, they help me to make better decisions in my life now, and hopefully this account has helped you see the dangers of implicit trust, and also help you make better, more educated or more balanced decisions in your life going forward. So please like, comment, subscribe, add me on Twitter, on Instagram, and I will catch you in the next video.